G'day and welcome to Videodrome Cinema. Today we're going to be talking about a couple of interesting and exciting facts about the film Prometheus. A lot of people already know that the film's title comes from the original Greek mythology. The story goes that Prometheus stole fire from the gods. He was a titan and he gave it to humans. And with that, he changed the fate of humanity. H.R. Giler, who conceptualized the original Alien in 1979, returned for the film to help out with the preliminary xenomorph. The design isn't completely his, he was more of a consultant on the film. To prepare for his role as David, Michael Fassbender watched the following films: Blade Runner, Lawrence of Arabia, The Servant, and The Man Who Fell to Earth. He used these films to find inspiration for his role. Charlize Theron was originally slated for the role of Dr. Elizabeth Shaw, though she had to refuse the role because of scheduling conflicts. Then she did end up telling the director that she does have time to do the film, but by that time they already had an Elizabeth, so she ended up playing a different role. The actress did complain a lot that the actual shooting was very physically demanding, but she did also say that this was primarily her own fault, because she does smoke. Originally, Fox was looking for a film that's rating wasn't so high, but Ridley Scott from the beginning wanted it to be rated R. But then he went on to say that if it's necessary, then he would want the R rating. The film did end up being R rated, though they did make a version that doesn't have some of the more gory scenes in it, and we don't lose anything from the actual storyline. Ridley Scott said that the set of Prometheus was so well built that they could actually live in it full time, but of course due to safety reasons this wasn't actually possible. Ridley Scott's inspiration for the basis of the film was based a lot on the ideas of Erich von Däniken. Most especially the theory struck a chord with him that most people agree that humanity kind of wouldn't be where it is right now unless there was some kind of outer influence. That of course is another question of whether we call this outside help God, or even the act of chance, or in the case of Prometheus, the engineers. In 2002, there were talks that maybe James Cameron would come aboard to make a fifth part of the Alien franchise, but he would only be the producer and Ridley Scott would be directing. This would have reached back to the roots on some level, but then Fox announced that it was going to make Alien vs. Predator. This really didn't sit well with James Cameron. He thought that a crossover like this would put the entire franchise in danger, and he didn't want any part of that. Scott did say that on some level, they did actually expand Cameron's basic idea for Prometheus. In the scene where Prometheus arrives and sets out to land, we can see the ground is kind of scorched or drawn with different types of shapes. Shapes like this are visible in Peru on Earth as well. And of course there is the theory that these are actually landing strips for UFOs. Noomi Rapace got the role when she met with a producer in Los Angeles. And on the way out from that meeting, she accidentally ran into Ridley Scott, who told her that he's seen Girl with the Dragon Tattoo 13 times. And he really liked the film, and he'd love to work with the actress, who of course said anytime, so Scott gave her the part. Noomi Rapace of course is Swedish, so she needed a dialect coach to help her with the British accent. Another interesting thing is when Weyland's hologram can be seen, when he's talking to the crew of Prometheus, there's a soundtrack playing in the back, and that was originally composed for the first Alien movie, but they didn't actually use it in that one. Originally, Ridley Scott wanted Max von Sydow for the role of Weyland, But there was a part in the script that would have shown us dream sequences that we would need a young Weyland for. So that's why they chose Guy Pearce. But then they ended up cutting that scene, so we don't end up actually seeing those dream sequences. During editing, they ran into problems with the ratings board. Scott was afraid that they'd have a problem with the operation scene, but in the end they didn't like the battle at the end, so they had to cut a few shots from there. When they first announced that Ridley Scott would be working on an Alien franchise movie, its original title was Paradise. Fun fact, Noomi Rapace was born when the original Alien film was released. The film got mixed reviews among the critics, though most of them did actually give it a positive rating. There was only one magazine that actually gave it a really bad review, and that was the official magazine of the Vatican. But their actual critique was that the film doesn't delve into the theme of good versus evil. Ridley Scott said in an interview that during Blade Runner he had already learned that whenever possible you really do need to have practical effects, and that's what he did on Prometheus. Whenever possible he didn't use CGI. The opening sequence of the film was filmed on Iceland and it took 2 weeks. In the part when the DNA is kind of like oozing and falling apart, they used oil and ink for that. A lot of people noticed that on David's fingerprints, the Weyland logo can be seen. The original Weyland logo in Alien came from the space jockey background. During the beginning of the film, when Elizabeth Shaw and crew find the cave and they see the cave drawings, these are actually real cave drawings in a cave that does actually exist. For the role of Elizabeth Shaw, Olivia Wilde, Carey Mulligan, and Anne Hathaway all auditioned. James Franco lobbied with Ridley Scott for Holloway's role, but he didn't end up getting it. The costume designer said that for every single crew member, they tried to make a unique spacesuit. In the beginning, they were still talking about maybe having a sequel to the Alien franchise. And they were throwing ideas back and forth, and Ridley Scott came. And that's how we ended up with this prequel and what we can actually have now with Prometheus. But there was a script version in which the mood was closer to the original Alien. We would have got more face huggers, things popping out of chests, and even if it was only for 1 or 2 shots, we would have seen a few of the original aliens. But Ridley Scott didn't want that. So these are some interesting fun facts that I found for the movie Prometheus. I hope you enjoyed the video. Come back and visit us soon. Click the like, subscribe to our channel if you enjoyed the content. Thank you. Bye.